Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mehnaz Talks AI. And I have a very special guest here. She's a mom, she's a teacher, she's an entrepreneur, and now she's an AI expert. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephanie. I'll let you do a little introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is such an important topic that we're going to talk about today. So good for you for thinking about it and realizing that we need to educate people around AI in the world, especially around our children, whether they be 5 years old or they're 20 years old. So I'm Stephanie Worrell, and as you mentioned, I'm an AI expert and I'm also a college professor. So I'm a teacher and a mom, and I'm seeing this from all different angles. I do a lot of speaking, and also I offer courses, and I've written a book on AI for kids. So that's what I'm doing.
That's great. And it's very interesting, the topics that you're covering, because oftentimes when we think about technology and the rapid evolution of AI,
That's okay.
you're covering lots of important topics because oftentimes when we think about AI evolution, we are always looking at it from an organizational perspective, right? Like how AI is going to help organizations maximize their operational efficiency, or how AI will help with productivity boosting and other type of topics. But until I came across your talk that you did on your everyday AI, even I wasn't thinking about how AI is going to impact children, kids, and families. So, from your experience obviously as a teacher, and then you're a mom as well, like how do you see AI impacting the next generation?
Yeah, it's going to have a huge impact. It's already changing, as you mentioned. It people do think about it as at the organizational level for corporate and your jobs and those kind of things, but it's starting to come into the schools. Schools are wanting to integrate it. In some schools it's becoming kind of competitive for private schools to be able to offer AI courses. But as young as some kids have already had it. Like, I don't know if in Canada, if you have Khan Academy for your kids, but my kids grew up with Khan Academy, so AI was already integrated in that. Now that generative AI is really on the top of everybody's mind, we hear a lot about it. We're really starting to learn how we can use it in the schools. And right now, most parents that I talk to, they think about it, but they're not. Either they're really afraid of it, or they think about it. Yeah, it's terrorized. It's terrorizing to them. We see, they've grown up seeing the robot movies and that kind of thing, where it's going to take over the world, and they don't understand generative AI like Chat GPT and Google Gemini and those kind of things. So it is starting to come into the schools. Kids are using it, whether you know or not. If you're a parent, a lot of kids are using it, um, you know, probably not safely or responsibly. There's been a lot of studies recently, like Harvard just did a study, a Common Sense Media that overwhelmingly shows that kids are using it and the parents have no idea. So it's really important, just like with social media. I really feel like I've got one that's 20 and that's one that's 26, and we did really okay with social media, but I think there's things I could have done differently. We know there's been studies that show how it affects kids' self-esteem, how we probably should have put more guardrails around it. And now with our kids today, we're layering on top of it. And it's just another thing and we need to get ahead of it like we did not do with social media. So parents really do need to educate themselves around how to help their kids use it safely and responsibly, and also prepare for the future.
And there's always like this growing concern because I remember even with my parents, when social media was up and booming, their biggest concern was they didn't know, right, what I was going to do. There was so much uncertainty. And I feel like the parents right now, they're feeling the same with AI. They don't know how it's going to impact the kids' education, their mindset. So there's a lot of unknown. And I think that's what's scaring parents a lot. So what would be like your advice, or how do you think parents can navigate kind of this uncertainty, or how better they can tackle the situation?
Yeah, I think just being aware and being involved, they're going to see it in the schools. And so understanding, making sure you're talking to the teachers, make sure you're talking to the schools. A lot of schools, there'll be maybe task force or advisory or parent groups getting involved, making sure that you're involved so that you're educated. around AI. Now, of course, I'm offering courses. I've got a book that you can read. There's other people that can also, other places where you can get education. So just making sure that you educate yourself. And then thinking about how, if the parent, think about how they grew up. Most of them, just like you, grew up with social media and the internet, and those same types of guardrails need to be put in place in terms of making sure that you understand how much your kids are using AI, what they're using it for, helping them use it responsibly, and then also modeling good AI use.
Mm-hmm.
So, I see parents of younger kids that yes, you need to start educating yourself, becoming involved. And then I see on the other extreme, as I thought about our discussion today, as a college professor, I really worry the kids in college, and they're not all kids, but the students in college, they're so afraid to use it because the schools are putting policy around it and basically scaring everybody, thinking, you're going to plagiarize, you're going to get kicked out of schools. But there's so many ways that AI can be used in the college classroom, and it needs to be integrated into curriculum because when they get out of school, it's already in the workforce. So I really worry. That's where a lot of my emotion and
Mm-hmm.
passion comes from right now. I've got two college age kids, and I see that they need to be, they're going to graduate and it's going to be in the workforce, and they're not going to know what to do. And
Yeah.
you've got a generation too. And I just was thinking about this. The kids right now that are graduating from college went through COVID. So they've already had
Mm-hmm.
a lot of upheaval, a lot of uncertainty, those kind of things. And now they're going to be graduating with a degree that will be useful, but they need to understand how to use AI in any profession, whether it be you're going to be a lawyer, a nurse, a doctor, a firefighter, trades, a teacher. You've got to understand. And I work in communications professionally. And so I work with graphic designers, PR professionals, marketing professionals, and it is completely changing the way these professions are it's completely changing the profession, how we work
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. So it's important as parents on that end, if you have kids that are going into college or in college, that you're helping maybe augmenting their education, because I think it's going to be a little while before AI is integrated into the curriculum as universities and colleges try to figure it out.
So what you're saying is, as opposed to like guard railing really harshly, that don't use it,
Yeah.
teaching kids how to use it responsibly and effectively in their day to day.
Yeah.
Most of the time, like the concerns, even with universities, especially with university and even schools, are like the plagiarism.
Hmm.
Like how do we use AI to do our homework? And there's a notion that I hear all the time, that a concern that parents and even professors and teachers usually have. It's like, how do you integrate AI into the education system in a way that's enabling students and their creativity, as opposed to just a student, asking the AI to do their homework? Because that can happen as well.
Yeah.
So how to kind of mitigate through those situations where at one hand you want to encourage creativity, but at the other end you have to think about the rules and regulations for a better education system, and also like the plagiarism policies that are in place.
Yeah. There's lots of ways you can do that. So starting with younger kids, introducing it to using it with them. I've even done this with my kids and they're older. My son really loves music. And so you can create songs, or taking like nursery rhymes and changing the words. So that's really fun to do with kids. Doing trivia with them. So like if you're in the car, like on a trip, you can do trivia. Like if you're maybe traveling through Canada, and, there's all kinds of cool trivia as you're going along the road and visiting different cities and things like that. So showing them how to use it that way in a creative way. The other thing is you can create art. So doing it with them at a really young age. So maybe starting like at 5 to 8, 9, 10, like, because the one thing we don't want to do is kill kids' creativity and their ability to think critically and think creatively. And then as the kids get older, showing them how, like if they have to write an essay, let's say you have to write an essay on so if we're thinking of Canada, we're thinking of the history of the country, and if maybe a leader or something like that, you can actually have them start to write out their ideas, and then they can do research based using AI. Now the thing that we need to start to think about now, when the kids get older and they're starting to use it for those kind of things, for research, for brainstorming, those kind of things, is AI can be biased. So, for example, I was working with AI and it suggested like that, and hopefully this is not the case, but it started talking about World War III. So we know that, and we hopefully will never have World War III, but it did start hallucinating, is what we call like making up information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the time where your kids you need to teach your kids like as they start to get content created or even graphic, photos, those kind of things as they're creating it, making sure that it's correct. So fact checking against encyclopedias, their textbooks, those kind of things. So they understand that it can create hallucinations and wrong information, and that it absolutely can be biased. And then as we get older with the kids, like maybe they get into junior high, high school, like teaching them how to use it, everything from creating their schedule. Like I use AI to help organize myself during the day, help them with their study habits. It can help them with their homework, with their research, showing them how to use like tools like Grammarly. So they're writing their paper,
Mm-hmm.
but Grammarly can help. Like with all of my college students, I ask them to please subscribe to Grammarly. And because it can help improve their writing and enhance their writing, not write for them. So just to go through the age groups, and then same as in college, like researching, brainstorming, doing group projects together, brainstorming. As you get into the workforce, a lot of times you're doing brainstorming together as a group, so doing it together. So teaching them how to use it to enhance versus replace is just really, really important.
Oh, that's right. And I think one of the things that I also keep noticing is how AI can be a support system in your family as well, because it can really help you build that relationship with your kids, but also free up your own time. So how do you see that evolve as well in the
Yeah.
landscape?
Yeah. So I mentioned a little bit like I use it for scheduling. I teach my kids how to use it for scheduling. So I put in everything I need to do during the day, what the importance is of it, and how much time I think it might take. And then it created a template. And now every day I can like block off my time and organize myself. It can really help, especially with kids that have maybe learning disabilities or ADHD. It can be really, really, really great. And the other thing I didn't mention earlier, but it sort of goes along with this topic is, if you have a child, let's say you have twins, and one of your twins reads and they're 10 years old, and let's say you're probably in fourth grade. So one of the twins reads at a fourth grade level, but then you have the other twin that might read at a 12th grade level. And so they're learning, or maybe lower, like at a second grade level, and maybe has a reading disability. You can use AI to help, customize and teach your kids, personalize it so that it can help them learn and read and learn math, everything at the level that they're at. And even like if you're talking about AI, I encourage parents to, like, if they're talking to a 5-year-old and they're trying to teach a concept to them, like what is AI? They like, what would Big Bird, how would Big Bird talk about AI? And it'll tell you how Big Bird would explain it to it. So if you're trying to explain things to your children about life in general, like it can help you actually create content and talking points so that you're talking to them at the appropriate age level. The other thing that I love AI for is for homework. I didn't
Mhm.
have this with my kids, and I remember so many nights where we had crying and screaming in terms of I'm not a math person. I'm not a
Mhm.
math expert. It's been a long time since I've had math, and they come home and I can't help them with their math. It's too late. You can't call the teacher. It's too late to call a tutor. But AI, now you don't plop your kid down in front of the computer and have it do their math problems, but you as the parent can,
Mhm.
help explain how to work through a problem, if it's a math problem, or help write a paper. So you can use it to teach your own kids, and it really can make all the difference in their evenings. Learning to use it for homework can be a game changer because you get home, you've been running around, you're stressed out, you're tired, everybody's hungry, you're starting to do the homework at 8 or 9 at night, and I just remember a lot of times where we were crying, screaming, and it ruined the evening. And it can be a game changer for your family if you can learn how to use it for homework.
No, I agree. And one of the things that I saw in being a use case is, so I live in Canada, but my husband's family is back in Bangladesh, and he has three other brothers who are situated in one is in UK, one is in Dubai. So they all kind of live in different parts of the world. And they have kids who are kind of multicultural as well. They speak different languages. So now they have been using AI to communicate with their grandparents, so my
Yeah.
husband's parents, who don't speak English fluently or other languages. So now it's like I see them in real time communicating and connecting. And it's really beautiful how that barrier that was there now has been like removed.
Yes, it could translate. I mean, I use it for translation for work, and um, ChatGPT is pretty good. Especially, I have to do a lot of translation to Spanish, and it's really really helpful. And you're right, it does knock down a lot of barriers because now you can understand whether it be your grandfather or somebody that you
Mm-hmm.
work with. So, and if you're talking about kids, in school, not everybody has English as their first language,
Yeah.
and so teaching kids how to use that tool to make connections with kids that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable making connections with because they don't speak the same language. So you're right. That is a really great example.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of it can be used for social good to like break down barriers to create more inclusive environment. But there's always that risk and privacy concern, especially when you can't really control what data your kid is inputting into that AI, or
Right.
if you what kind of subscription they're using. So I think those are the main educational
Yeah.
things that needs to be focused on.
Yeah, a lot of kids and even adults don't realize, like I've talked to some of my peers, like professors, and they don't realize, which is so interesting, that privacy is really a huge issue. Yeah, you should not put your full name in there, your birth date, all the things that we've taught our kids. And we've been taught internet safety and not, is really, really important. I think people don't like it's the reason AI is so valuable is it's taking all the data that's being inputted into it, and then it's able to give us all the great content that we're able to get. But if I haven't heard of a lot of examples to date, but if you put if some child would put their address in there, their name, I mean, and then somebody is Googling the same name, it could come up,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's really, really important that we teach our kids that safety is still important, privacy is still an issue. And then we also need to think about just how much our kids are on the computer, same that we have with gaming, with social
Mm-hmm.
media, how much time our kids are on the computer or on their devices. It's really important. And we do see, some negatives in terms of there was a study that came out about what kids are using it for, and they are using it for, you know, like maybe kids that are shy or they are lonely and they're using it to you can actually build a rapport and have a fake relationship with AI, and some of them are using it for sex and that kind of thing. And so we've got to make sure that we're monitoring and talking to our kids about it, having open discussions. So all those times where you're in the car with your kid and you're driving them to school or you're sitting at dinner, like make sure you're asking them questions because they'll tell you what
Mm-hmm.
people are using it for. And you need to make sure that you're monitoring. And there'll be more and more platforms that are be coming out. There are a few now that do put guardrails around kids' usage of it. And they're just not quite advanced yet. But, I would suggest that moving forward, just like we have tools, applications, and that kind of thing we can use on phones and computers to make sure our kids aren't going places they're not supposed to or just on their devices for a really long time.
No, it's actually very fascinating because yesterday my first speaker focused on organizations, like how organizations are really putting more focus on technology, but the issue is not the technology, it's really like instilling those organizational values,
Mhm.
some of those ethical considerations, and that needs to happen regardless of what technology exists or not. But you're saying the same thing, but in terms of like parenting, you need to parent your kid in a way where they're coming to you and sharing if they're doing anything so you can stop it, or you have that trust system built in and you're instilling those good values that they are able to make that judgment, right? Because as much as we want, we cannot really like control everything. So as parents and as teachers and professors, all we can do is kind of teach since
Yeah.
early on and instill like good values in the kids so that they grow up to be like good adults. So it's not really like putting barriers like, hey, don't use this, but making sure that they're empowered to use technology. but at the same time, they have that education and access to information on how to use it responsibly.
Yeah, and one thing I want to stress here is that's why I'm doing this education around parenting and AI is you cannot leave it up to the teachers in the schools. They've got enough to worry about. And it's different than social media. Like there weren't social media courses, there probably wasn't appropriate, but now that AI is being used for academically, teachers are having to deal with it, schools are having to deal with it. And so, we need to make sure that we as parents, you know, are responsible and do exactly what you said, teaching them the values and ethics around using it. One other thing that I wanted to bring up that kind of goes back to something we've been talking about is a level set, not really about language, but the other thing I like about AI is, a lot of parents can't afford their kids to like, I don't know in Canada, but there's standardized testing like ACT,
Yes.
all of the tests, and it's super expensive to send your kids. I had to do it and it was a strain. It can be thousands of dollars that you're, for tutors or sending them to a private academy or someplace where where they're getting instruction and tutorials around how to prep for those tests. And now with AI, it could be a real level set for kids and families that aren't, that can't afford things like tutoring and ACT and those kind of things. It can really be a game changer and a level set for families. So and help kids, excel and get into college and move on.
No, definitely I agree. So what are some of the highlights of the course that you are kind of teaching? Is it for parents? What's the demographic and
Yeah, it's for
what's
parents.
your aim with it?
Yeah, it's for parents. I've got one that I've been using for parents. It's a course for parents called Raising AI Smart Kids, and that is really the basics. And it's around safety, around preparation for the future, and then continued education around AI. So and then I do get into how to use it for homework, how to use it for fun, how to use organization, and then we also get in, really dive into safety issues around hallucinations, bias, deep fakes, which is where some people don't know what that is, but it's where, like I could create you and have you do things that you wouldn't normally be doing that you wouldn't want, you know. So that's starting to infiltrate into our schools a little bit with people taking kids likenesses of kids and creating, videos of them doing things that we would not want our kids to be doing. So that's that course. And then I'm about to launch a course for parents and students, college students, to help because that's really where I worry about these kids that are going to be graduating and they're going to be just in shock and have trouble finding jobs. And there's certain professions like graphic design, for example. I worry about that because you can do graphic design. It's not quite where it needs to be, but it's going to continue to get better and better. And so you can still be a graphic designer, but you're going to need to upskill and change the way you do your job. And so we need to make sure so that's the next step. And then so teaching them how to use it in college in a smart way, ethic and safe way, not plagiarizing, using it the right way, preparing them for their future career. And then the third thing in that course is teaching kids how to build their resume, their LinkedIn. I just did this with my daughter and it's amazing. A lot of times you have to send out lots and lots of applications and resumes and just getting and customizing it and personalizing it for each opportunity is so easy now so getting kids prepared. So that's the second course that I have. So I'm doing young kids, parents to teach younger kids, and then both parents and college students on the other end with the course.
That's amazing how, you are tackling this complex issue and that's very much needed. And providing education not just for the kids but for the parents so they are better equipped on how to tackle this
Yeah,
evolving nature of AI. So
yeah,
that's very nice. And what kind of got you into it? Like, how did you become an AI expert, or like, how
yeah.
did the transition happen?
Yeah, I started with my career and I've worked in communications and public relations marketing for a really long time. Specifically over the last probably 10 years, I worked in the healthcare industry. So AI has always been there. That's the traditional AI where it's predictive. And so it's things like if you put like, just like with you, if you're having a little bit of an illness, you put your symptoms in and it can tell you what you might have. and that kind of thing. So that's different than, generative AI that we're seeing with ChatGPT. And so I really started to see it there. And then so I got really interested in it, and I do like technology in general. And then a couple years ago, when I started to, well, longer than that, probably 3 or 4 years ago, as a college professor, I started to hear about it. And so I started to take training, get myself up to speed and work towards becoming an expert, because I did see that really early on that it was going to affect my own profession. And then I started thinking about my kids as they were younger. And now as a college professor, I'm just really passionate. I just worry about, it's stressful enough to be graduating from college and worrying about getting a job. But now we're going to put on top of them, I've got to get a job and I may not be prepared for it. Like, I don't even know if I can do the job
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know AI. So really just a passion for young kids, college students, and teaching. I love to teach. So it's kind of a nice combination for me.
But then you are also a very like great inspiration and example that if anyone wants to learn, like truly wants to learn and become an expert in this space, they can, right? Which is why like
Yeah.
taking courses and
Yeah.
upskilling yourself and learning is so important.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is important to learn and upskill. And I try to stay up to date on all the new applications around AI. It's hard because there's so many. And I tend to be, it's really fun to play around with all of them, but it gets
Yeah.
expensive as you're trying to, pay for all of them and that kind of thing. But I do try to, as much as possible, stay on the cutting edge of what's available and how things are evolving and transforming, both on the professional side and then also on the parent and the college professor side, so teacher side.
Yeah. And I think the more like if you educate yourself, the more aware you are about a certain topic or let's say about AI, the better you understand the risk and the concerns too, right? And the better you have an idea on like, how to navigate this. Because I think like anytime we had a revolution or an evolution throughout history, right? When internet was first getting like popular, right?
Mhm.
Before Facebook, I remember, and then the evolution of social media. So I think as a society, there's always gonna be like this ups and downs, and now we are seeing the most like rapid. So I think we can survive through it. There's always gonna be bad actors, but as much as we can, as like parents, teachers, educators, as a society, if we can start equipping our children, I think that would be super powerful because while they're kids, I think that's the most time where we have to inspire their mindset or shape their mindset.
Yeah. And your point about bad actors, that's even more reason to become educated around AI so that you can recognize it. You understand what, the good and the bad and how you make your decisions around AI. So it's really important to continue, to educate, stay on top of it as much as you can. It's not that complicated to use. So a lot of people are afraid of it and think that it's, I don't know anything and it's complicated. It's not, it really is, and I always use the example of back when electricity was invented. I mean, what do you think people thought about that? They were probably really scared about it. I mean,
Yeah,
terrifying, that kind of thing.
yeah,
But was a lot of good, and people just had to learn and incorporate it. It changed the tractor, for example, in farming. Because, when that was invented, it completely changed the way people are farming and doing their jobs. But so it's just about upskilling and making sure that you understand how to use it, preparing your kids as they're growing up to make sure that they can be members of the society contributing and, can think for themselves, but you can use it to enhance. So it really can, in my job, it cuts down a lot of my work by half. So I can do other things. So it is really nice.
so what would be like, because we are coming towards the end, so what would be your one advice for any parents who's listening to this? Any parting word?
Yeah. Don't stick your head in the sand, educate yourself, and then talk to your kids. It's really important. Don't think that your kids are not using it. Have a conversation, set a good example, and use it together. Make it something that you grow up with them, that they grow up with, and it's part of your family. But, if I had to boil it down to two things, education and, don't stick your head in the sand and have conversations with your kids.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining the podcast. I really hope that we get to speak again.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing all the great insights.
Yeah. No, this is a great topic and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.